Call the Honourable Joe Goodhue.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, warm greetings to our Pacific colleagues. Welcome to the first ever Pacific Parliamentary and Political Leaders Forum. Welcome to New Zealand. My background is that I am an elected member for an electorate called Rangitata on the east coast of the South Island. I think it would be fair to say that there is no other part of New Zealand that has so few Pacific peoples amongst its population, but the numbers are growing. The economy of my electorate benefits from the RSE, or Recognised Seasonal Employment Scheme, and I thank the Pacific Islands for sending people to work in my electorate, and I hope that indeed it is enriching their lives as it is our economy and our lives, and assisting their families with the work that they are doing in New Zealand. In fact, I want to say to you that as the numbers of Pacific peoples in my electorate increases, so too is my community enriched. As Minister of Women's Affairs, I'm delighted that I can welcome the 16 female political leaders that come from Pacific Island nations to this forum over these days. I want to acknowledge the fact that prior to me speaking were two other female politicians from New Zealand, one from Labour, one from the Greens, and I know that our Minister is going to wind up our debate here this afternoon, again, one of our female politicians. So although we are some, I think 31 or 32% of this Parliament, we're finishing in style with the woman's voice of this Parliament. I know that increasing women's participation in the Pacific legislatures is a challenge. I acknowledge that challenge. I wish you well in the different ways that each nation is addressing that challenge. I also wish you success. And I would like to congratulate the Pacific for bringing gender to the forefront. For example, the 2012 Pacific Leaders Gender Equality Declaration renewed the Pacific's commitment to improve the lives of women and girls. The Pacific Regional Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security 2012 to 2015 was the first of its kind in the Pacific. It enhances women's security in conflict situations and women's leadership in conflict prevention and peace building. In March this year, I was absolutely delighted to see the Pacific play such an active role in the Commission on the Status of Women in New York, and it was noted that the Pacific Islands were playing an increased role, a very much increased role. I was delighted to be there and amongst it. I'd also like to commend Samoa for leading the Commonwealth Gender Plan of Action Monitoring Group. The Gender Plan of Action is the framework through which the Commonwealth contributes to the advancement of gender equality. The Pacific's performance on gender equality in education also deserves specific mention. Literacy rates are very high and significant gains have been made in girls accessing primary and secondary education in most areas of the Pacific. Congratulations for your progress in this respect. New Zealand is a supportive partner for gender equality in the Pacific. In health and education, we work very closely with our development partners to improve access to education for girls, strengthen services in maternal and family reproductive health, and through our aid program we offer scholarships to assist women into tertiary education. Improved infrastructure, primarily transport, energy, water and telecommunications, all contribute to economic development and women's economic empowerment. We recently extended the Pacific Prevention of Domestic Violence program to 2016. This is a successful partnership between New Zealand Aid Program, the New Zealand Police and the Pacific Islands Chiefs of Police, which aims to reduce the violence against women and provide better access to justice for women victims and survivors. Along with the Australia and US, New Zealand is supporting the Emerging Pacific Women's Leadership Program. Women leaders from the 12 Pacific countries are implementing projects that promote young women leaders and advance women's economic opportunities. Women's economic empowerment may be enhanced by improving women's rights to land ownership, secure employment, fair and equal pay, and as my colleagues before me have acknowledged, eliminating violence against women is a struggle we face nationwide. We join with you in attempting to address that struggle here in New Zealand as well. So once again, I close by saluting the 16 women leaders, political leaders who've come to this forum. In fact, I salute all of the political leaders that have come to this forum, for improving the lives of women and girls can only be done with our men folk helping us. Please enjoy your time in New Zealand. It's wonderful having you here.
I call the Honourable Hikia Paraza, 3 minutes in reply.
Tēnā koe te mana whakahaere, o tira tēnā tātou I huri